Hey everyone, welcome back to the Match Grade Podcast. This episode is going to be dedicated for you guys that are getting into red dots. So we're going to talk about mounting a red dot and zeroing the red dot so you can get some good results.
So we've got our slide with our cut. I've taken the plate off and moved that out of the way. And I've got the screw mount, the mounting screws, and I've got the sight itself. The battery's already installed in the bottom. If you're just got to remember how it is so you can put it in correctly. In this case, you want to see the writing on the battery when you have it installed into the sight. Then what I've done is I've also invested in a torque limiter. This thing actually helps you install these a lot better, where you don't over tighten the screws or tighten them or not tighten them enough. Okay, this thing. There's many out there. There's a whole bunch of different options out there. I bought this one because it was kind of compact. It's from Fix-It Sticks, and I kind of like it because it's just right here. This is pretty much everything I need to put my sights on. I also added in this kit, I added a couple other adjustment tools for different sights, just in case I'm in the field and I've got to adjust a windage or an elevation on one of the dots. Okay, so when we get this ready, what we're going to do is we're just going to start assembling everything, and we're going to get everything put together and ready to go. All right, so the first thing you want to do is you want to get the sight, get the battery installed, and just kind of pinch it to make sure it stays on, and then just place it in there. And then what I typically do is I just gently start the screws. That way I can tell. I don't want to force it with the Fix-It Sticks yet. I don't want to force it to get it in there because I might accidentally strip one of the threads. So I'll get it in there. And then what I'll do is I'll just start tightening it up. And I'm going to stop when I feel a little bit of resistance. Okay, so I'm going to bring this one down. When I feel it's snug, I know it's not going to come off. What I'll do is I'll check to make sure it looks like everything is seated. I don't have any weird gaps under here. I don't have a gap on one side that I don't have on the other. I want it to look even. You want to turn the torque indicator so you can see what you're doing and you can see the number, and just give it a turn. Okay, it's gotten a little snug. Hasn't even started working on the torque limiter yet. And this one doesn't click, but basically you turn it until the indicator lines up with the number that you want. Okay. That's about right there. So I went to about 26 on this. And then, once you're done with that, just check to make sure it's all good. A lot of people, what they'll do is they'll take a couple little markers, like paint markers, and they'll just put a couple little paint mark tags on the screws to see if they're working their way out. But if you put just enough Loctite on there and you let it dry the way you're supposed to, and then you torqued it right, they shouldn't move. Okay, so now your sight's mounted.
Alright guys, now that you have your red dot mounted, it is time to zero. Now the best distance to zero your red dot has probably been debated since the first caveman decided to put a red dot on his wooden club. But as long as you know what distance your red dot has been zeroed at, that's all that matters. And the technique for zeroing at different distances is going to be almost exactly the same. There are two primary methods to zero a red dot. One is going to be using a boresight, one is going to be without. So we're going to show you how to do both methods, starting with the boresight. So what is a boresight? A boresight is a laser pointer that goes into the barrel of your firearm that's going to show you where the bullets are going to be impacting at a given distance. Primarily, there are two different types of boresight. The first one is going to be a chamber loading boresight like so, okay? And the second one is going to be a muzzle loading boresight that looks like this. Now there are advantages and disadvantages to each. With the chamber loading boresight, it's going to be a much tighter fit because it is about the diameter of a actual caliber round that you're shooting. This one is going to be a 9mm, so it has a very, very tight fit. That's the advantage of a boresight like this. The disadvantage is it only works for 9mm and the laser might not be as powerful at a longer distance. The second type of boresight is a muzzle loading boresight like so. It has an attachment here that matches the caliber of your firearm, and it's going to be inserted into the barrel in order to show you where your point of impact is. The advantage of a boresight like this is that it does have a much powerful laser compared to the chamber loading boresight. So it's great for rifles, for shotguns, and zeroing at further distances. The attachment does also come off and allows you to switch it out with different calibers, such as 45 ACP, 223, 30-06, whatever you can kind of think of. The disadvantage is if the attachment or this stick end of the boresight becomes bent in any way, either in the barrel or by rough handling, now you have a boresight that's going to be pointed off at an angle and not going to be accurately showing you where your point of impact is going to be. So advantages and disadvantages for both. I have both. I recommend using the one that works best for you. All right, for tonight's purposes, we are going to be using the chamber loading red dot just because this one happens to be red. All right, and the dot that we are going to be zeroing in for demonstration purposes is green. So for audience members, it's going to be much easier to see where the red and green dots are going to be lining up. So the first thing we are going to do is we're going to pick up our firearm. Okay, we are going to ensure that there is no magazine inserted and the chamber is clear. And we are just going to insert our red dot right down into the chamber of the firearm and close the slide like so. And now it's time to find a target. Luckily, Durf here has volunteered himself in order to be our boresight target. For those of you in the audience who are concerned about Durf's safety, we are not going to be making any holes in him, so you do not have to worry. He's going to be for demonstration purposes only.
KO, Durf. Fred. That's what I said. Durf.
So we are going to take our firearm and we are going to clamp it into our tripod just to have a steady surface. And as you can see, the red dot is settling right on Durf. And as you can see, now Durf has a nice red dot on him. And at this point, we are going to turn on our dot sight. We are going to adjust the windage and elevation knobs of our dot sight so that they match up with our boresight. All right, that should be a good zero at about 10 yards. Now we're going to go to the range in order to confirm. We're here at the range in order to just confirm the zero. We got a target set up about 10, 12 yards down or so, which is about the distance that I zero my red dot. Whether you decide to zero at a closer distance, like 3 or 5 yards, or maybe a longer distance, like 15 or 25, the process is going to be exactly the same. The only difference is going to be how much elevation adjustment that you have to make between those two distances. Okay, we are going to be drawing from concealed. I wouldn't worry too much about the speed of the draw because really we are focusing on that precision shot and just to make sure that we have confirmed our zero. All right, so let's go live. All right, let's see how we did. Okay, not bad. 4 shots pretty tightly grouped together. That one's on me because I foobarred it. And then another 5 just to confirm. So I think we are pretty much zeroed. Seeing as how my target disappeared, we're going to call this one a success. Alright, so if you have not boresighted your gun, you are going to shoot from a rested position, taking out a lot of the human error factor, whether that might be a bench like this, whether it might be a vise, whether it might be a stand of some sort. You want to take 5 shots and try to group it as accurately as possible to see where your point of impact is going to be. And then we'll adjust it afterwards. All right, so here we go. All right, let's go see how we did. All right, so we've grouped all our shots low and to the left of center. That's not bad. So what I'm gonna do is we're just gonna place our red dot or green dot right on the dot and then adjust the elevation and windage knots until I can get the dot right on the center. So that's pretty close. And we're just going to take a couple shots in order to confirm. Especially since our target moved. So that is zeroing your red dot, both with a boresight and without a boresight. Hopefully you found this helpful. Again, there are many other ways to zero your red dot. I'm sure that there are out there. These are just 2 ways that you can do a zero with your red dot at home. If you found this helpful and liked this video, be sure to check out our other content located right over here.